All right,
My
good
fault.
morning.
I take the hit. I'm late because of me, everyone.
Well, no, it's a
my
storage
fault.
issue. Storage issues. Look, Rob Brown, Brendan Martin here with you. Got a lot to cover. Dave Tompkins over in Beaufort, South Carolina, in the Low Country.
I know.
Low
I got my
Country
glass
stew
for
is
Dave.
Delicious. I don't know what
I got
that
my
is.
glass for Dave.
There you go.
My Kentucky Derby glass.
And and Castle Pines is going on too.
Oh, yeah, we can talk a little G.
Yeah, and Dave, listen, Bo Carter from the Metroplex out there, Dallas, Fort Worth, Carrollton National Football Foundation joins us. Also, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, Vince Ferrara from the Sports Animal in Knoxville. Hey, smash subscribe button, bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Once you subscribe, you'll get a notification every day. Tell friends and family and tell them about all of our great sponsors like House Industries. It is harvest time, starting to crank up over here in Arkansas. They got the Better Roller, the Pulverizer, the Better Chopper. They make the aerators for the catfish farm.
All right, bro.
House
Let's
Industries,
go, baby.
Inc.
Let's go. We got to talk
Let's go.
sports, baby. Come on now.
go.
We got to get excited. Let's go.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right. Hey, good morning. We are, I guess, technically 240 hours away from August 31st, okay? That means, though, there is football Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, 72 hours. I just did my gazendas like Jethro would do. Naught times naught plus naught. Now,
Some ciphering.
who's going to Dublin to see Florida State and Georgia Tech play? Georgia Tech, Florida State. That'll be a fun one. Hey, it's college football. I don't care. Look, guys, we last night, Memphis Touchdown Club, Cole Kubelik was in town from SEC Network. A proud Homewood Patriot, Dave, one of your rivals, the Mountain Brook Spartans, as a youngster. Cole was fantastic. Got to talk to him a lot before and during, and then afterwards, a group of us were just talking to him. What a great guy, great dad, got 3 kids. Man, he loves what he does. And a lot of questions about the SEC. And I'm going to start off with something about Florida. It was pretty cool, and I'm going to throw this to both of y'all, all 3 of y'all, gentlemen. Someone asked about Florida's schedule. He said, hold on a second. He goes, does anyone in this room know what Miami's record was last year? And I was the only one that knew it, 7-6. He said, does anyone in this room know what UCF's record was last year? And I said, 6-7. He goes, that's right. He goes, why is everybody wetting their pants over this schedule Florida's got to play? Since when did Miami and Central Florida become Alabama and Georgia? I'll start with you in the right-hand corner, Jonathan Winters on Hollywood Squares, and we've got up above him, we've got Clint Eastwood right after that. So start with you, Bo. What do you think about that?
Boy, it's the one thing we talked about this on the show a couple of times too, Rob. Florida had a chance to kind of come in there when Miami was down, over the 9 and 10, 11 win seasons, and sort of take over. Brendan's heard this before too a few times, but they didn't quite take advantage of it. And Florida State, hit the skids there before they went 12-0 last year. Or 13. So it's man, there's so much talent down there. Within a 40-mile radius of Miami, Dave Pollin was, I think there may be 100
D1 prospects on average.
So if you just recruit your own backyard, you got a shot at it. But it's it amazes me that all 3 teams in Florida don't win 8, 9, 10 games a year just with the talent. But some of it's just eating their young, they're having to beat each other to death. So that's what happens.
Yeah, it is. And Brendan, if my internet issues are bad, let me know I'll bounce out.
Yeah.
And I'll go to Verizon, the home, or you tell me when to do it.
Yeah.
Dave,
I'll I'll yell at you. Don't worry.
Okay, Dave. Question for you is, okay, we're talking about this Florida thing, and then I got a follow-up question with Alabama high school football, which is the best? But answer that Florida question as only you can.
Okay, well, I always compare the Florida season to my local golf club here in South Carolina. The first 4 holes are super easy. And so you want to be even par, 1 over par going into number 5 tee. And if you're not, you're going to have a bad round. That's Florida's season. I mean, they can conceivably be 5-0 going into Knoxville. And Miami has kind of made almost everyone's overrated list. So I think, and I believe Florida's pretty bullish on their new quarterback. They've had 2 good recruiting seasons. Hopefully the Napier's righted the ship and off they go in a positive direction. But they go into Tennessee 5-0. They're ranked. I think that's entirely conceivable. However, if they go into Tennessee 3-2 or something like that, then the back half of the schedule looks even meaner and uglier. So it really comes down to what happens in the first 5 weeks of the season for Florida, in my opinion.
I'm going to go back in time with you and draw a parallel. When you were at West Point, your first year, that summer before classes started, there was a program that they push you really hard through. If you make it to, say, the 5th week out of 6 weeks, ain't no way you're quitting, is there? That's the same thing with the schedule.
Yeah, it's called Beast Barracks. It's 6 weeks. It starts on reception day, our day. In our case,
reception day. I love that one.
Reception day, when you get warmly welcome to the United States Military Academy. And then your last week of Beast Barracks, you're out at a place called Lake Frederick, which is about 11 or 12 miles from campus. And it's kind of fun. You watch movies at night. You watch Patton, and there's a little bit of brotherhood, and the upperclassmen kind of let down their hair a little bit with you, and then you've got the march back to West Point, and that's really probably the second proudest moment of your career after graduation, because all the tourists, your family, lie in the streets as you march into West Point. It's really a cool thing. At that point, you've crossed your first sort of you've checked your first box, passed your first test, and then it becomes a lot harder to quit, even though you have a pretty brutal plebe year awaiting you.
Well, the bottom line, the bottom line is, in the state of Alabama, there is a debate. Where's the best high school football played? Shelby County, Jefferson County, or Mobile and Baldwin County? And I think now that debate, you've got a third one, Alabaster, Thompson High School.
Yes.
But, we mentioned Miami, and Bo, you're right. Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties typically produce about 100 Division I players a year. But, Dave, real quick, your thoughts. Where's the best high school football played in the Yellowhammer State?
I think it has moved from Jefferson County and Hoover had the stranglehold for so many years. It's hard to debate the star power of Baldwin County when it's produced everyone from the Snake to Julio Jones at Foley High School. Yeah. But I think now the best football in Alabama is played in Shelby County.
I do too. And is Shelby County is Alabaster in Shelby County?
It is. Yes.
I mean, okay, because I was thinking it may have been just on the tip, but okay. So that's a powerful statement. That one right there. I mean, your high school football is so big in Alabama. It's ginormous in Florida. Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, said high school football in Alabama is where it was in Georgia 10 years ago. About 150 college players come out a year in a state of 5.1 million people. That's powerful.
In terms of per capita, it's hard to argue anywhere any state is as strong as Alabama, with the possible exception of Georgia in terms of just per capita. Yeah. But to your point and to Bo's point, though, the real honey hole is in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. They crank out so many 4- and 5-star players every year, and it's hard to fathom, all the Florida schools not being better than they are. But I think that day will soon return for the Florida schools.
I agree. Bo, you're out in Texas in the Plex. The Metroplex.
Phew.
But Texas and OU. We've got Texas and OU together. It's like they're a package deal. Texas and Texas A&M. There's a hatred on another level. I don't think there's that kind of hate with Auburn and Alabama, Bo. Would you agree?
I think so. I don't know what it is. It must be the Red River or whatever else. But the Texas people, especially during the Barry Switzer era, really resented. OU. I mean, they've been happening for 100 years, but they resented Oklahoma coming in and swooping up some of the top prospects. And then when the Southwest Conference kind of had trouble with the death penalty at SMU and other stuff going on, Oklahoma really took advantage of it. And it's kind of like the sort of like the Old West. Black Bart's coming to town to recruit your players.
Well, think of the greatest.
That adds to the hatred. I don't know.
Look, and I was really referencing mainly the hatred between. I think there's more. Well, as Ken Cap said, and Dave, when we were out in Dallas for media days, I said, in the SEC, man, we all hang out together. Yeah. I mean, we want to beat each other. He said, ain't going to happen with OU and Texas. They're not going to be under the same tent, drinking beer, hanging out, it's not going to. I go, come on, Ken. He goes, not going to happen. What about in Texas and Texas A&M? There's a hatred there, guys, that's both of them have money. A&M's endowment's over $20 billion. Texas is like $42 billion. And just look at the price of oil. They get money every year from that. I mean, there's NIL right there. Club Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Well, I think Texas A&M had a great opportunity in the SEC for a number of years. I believe the Johnny Manziel, Brian Denny year was 2013. I could be wrong. I believe it was 2012.
Yep.
2012. Okay, so 20. So even makes a stronger case for me. So that was their opportunity to say, hey, the nexus of the SEC is in the state of Texas, and they were never able to really capitalize on that. Correct. On that moment back in 2012. And now here comes Texas, their rival. And I think the biggest fear if you're an Aggie is that you're going to be just rendered immediately irrelevant by an SEC school in your state. That's I think that's the big fear. My guess is in Aggie land right now.
Well, we're going to have in about 10, 15 minutes, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net will join us. And then Vince Ferrara from the Sports Animal in Knoxville. So we're going to have some fun today, guys, because we're speeding up the tempo, the hurry up, no huddle as we get toward the season. I love this talk. That's right, Dave. A&M's got to worry about being canceled, and they hate Texas for a lot of reasons. I think that's top of the list, Bo. You're out there among them. They think they got good barbecue out there too. So your thoughts?
It really is. It's kind of where Kenny runs. They're assembling the old Southwest Conference. You got three Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. OU was actually one of the original members of the SWC, and they Oklahoma State pulled out because they dropped wrestling as a varsity sport.
Dave, did you know that? I never knew that.
True story in the 1920s, but no, it's those three schools. And then to complicate things, you got Sam Pittman, one of the all-time great, nice guys. I loved his great line: "Kids, don't do this, but I'm going to go out and get a couple of cold ones after this win."
And one of them might be that guy behind us, Ham's beer, the beer you've been looking for since 1865. I asked him about that at media days.
Yeah,
and he goes, "You look like you got a good job." He goes, "Come on, man, step it up a little bit." I said, "Ham's is the beer of kings."
That's right. I mean,
but anyway, come on.
But and you you're really hoping Coach Pittman can make it over there. So it's and you've got Sarkisian, Big 12 Coach of the Year last year, and Mike Elko's seems to be ready to do a great job at A&M. Look what he did at Duke. So and you look at the money and the resources they have at A&M, like you're saying, Rob. A lot of oil money being poured into all those programs. So it's going to be a great year to see what happens.
Hey, guys, Monday after the regular morning show we do, SEC Sidelines Sports Network, we did an SECU podcast with Kirk McNair. Y'all both know who he is. What a cool guy. What a class guy. Him and Buddy together, that was flattened Scruggs, two peas in a pod. So we're talking, Buddy goes, come on, tell us some great stories. And he goes, well, part of my job for 9 years was every day I had to meet with Coach Bryant. And he goes, I looked forward to going to work every day. He goes, I couldn't sleep at night. He said, so one time he goes, back then practice was wide open. And you could just come and go to scrimmages, whatever, and there'd be people out there, hey, man, I saw the scrimmage today. It looked great. He goes, well, we had a real bad practice, Kirk McNair said, on the Thursday. So Coach called me over and he said, Kirk, nobody's coming to the scrimmage Saturday. Nobody. I said, yes, sir, Coach Bryant. So I had to call all the writers. Remember, there were no cell phones or emails or mass, things you could send to everybody. I had to call them all one by one, go down the list, and there were a lot of them. So Saturday we had the scrimmage, and it's the empty stadium, there's nobody there. And after the scrimmage, and then he said, Coach Bryant walked down to the end zone, leaned up against the goalpost, and was smoking a cigarette. Like, you know what it was? It was a Chesterfield. And he said, where are all the writers, Kirk? He goes, well, Coach, you told me nobody was invited to the scrimmage. He goes, yeah, but the writers, they're our friends. I thought that was classic. I mean, what, Dave, could you imagine today? Hey, Dave, Billy Napier here. You run by practice this morning. I want you to see what we're doing. Come on by. And I've got breakfast for you. Do you like your eggs sunny side up or scrambled?
Well, the funniest thing that from way back then was when the late Mal Moore was the offensive coordinator, and he was rarely was he up in the booth. He was next to Coach Bryant, and he had to be there for a reason, because they have a drive and sequence all the plays and everything, and they get down inside the 5, and Coach Bryant would call a play that was completely out of sequence and wasn't going to work. But what are you going to say to Coach Bryant? I mean, you've got 30 seconds to talk him out of it, and if he looks you in the eye, like, you're running the play. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And years later, Mal would talk about that, and that became and we used to always guess, when he was going to call one of his plays and what kind of play was it going to be, and what the over under on whether it was going to be a disaster or not. But that was life with Coach Bryant. And, now all these years in looking back and nostalgia, how wonderful it was to grow up in that era.
Yeah. And Bo, you're so lucky, man. You in SID for a long time in the Southeastern Conference. Then you were in the Southwest Conference office. You put them to a dirt nap, when they went away, and went to the Big 12. You've got so many. Dave, you ought to see this guy. It's like watching Clive Davis at the music awards. Everybody comes up to talk to Bo Carter. Everybody knows the guy around the country. And same thing with Ken Capps, and they're going to be around a long time. Bo, I'll tell you the guy, and I'm going to throw one out there. Bill Battle, when he went to Tennessee, was a young coach, 70 to 76, 7 years. I think he was 55 and 22. Yeah. What took him out? He couldn't beat Auburn and Alabama.
Yes.
Enough, okay? Well, the next coach, who was a young guy, who I think is the most undervalued coach in the modern era of the SEC, is Charlie Pell, for what he did at Florida. What were your relations with, your interactions with Charlie Pell? We had his widow, Ward Pell, on the show a couple of years ago, guys. That's one of the best shows. It's unbelievable. Short of having Brother Oliver on the show, you can't get much better than that.
Well, yeah, I had Coach Pell actually interviewed for a job with him at Florida one time in '84. Very gracious guy. Bill Carr was the AD at the time. That was when Norm Carlson was moving up, got promoted to another job, and they were looking for a young crazy person.
Yeah,
Brendan
remembers
saw the mob of media. They said, "How many? Can you control this mob of media?" I said, "Probably not, but it's good to get down here and get an interview because my wife's from Jacksonville, and my dad her father used to provide courtesy cars for Florida coaches." So,
damn,
it was a good deal for the family. It was a good deal for the family, but it all worked out because 2 years later went to the Southwest Conference. But no, Charlie Pell. I mean, Rob, the first year he was there, they were
10-1.
Brendan might have been a baby then or whatever, but they really, they just were not competitive, and he turned the thing around in 2 years. So man, just what an amazing job he did. And then motivational speaking. Remember the deal? He was going to go die by suicide, and he talked himself out of it. I think prayed or whatever too. Just an unbelievable story. It's just a shame that he kind of left us too soon.
Yeah, he did. He, and Dave, you remember Charlie Pell. He was a fiery guy, but damn, he was he. I think he told Florida people, "You can do it." I mean, I think, and that was and
way back once upon a time before there was a me.
Yeah. Wait, Dave, you're freezing up. Hopefully that's not on my end, but yeah.
Way back. Okay, yeah, we had a little internet thing. Way back once upon a time before there was even a consideration of me, my mom dated Charlie a couple times at Alabama. Way back in the day, but
I did not know that.
As the land grab continues, well, you just every now and then Savant Wednesday, I guess. As the land grab continues in the SEC and in the Big Ten, I would love for the SEC to acquire Nebraska, because then you'd have, the meat of the Southwest Conference and the meat of the Big Eight all in one conference. And I think that's going to be one of the real cool storylines this year, is the resumption of those old 1960s, 1970s rivalries in the SEC, in the former Big Eight in Oklahoma and, Southwest Conference in Texas A&M and Arkansas.
You know what, Dave? You just hit on something I think is cool. We had Chris Plank of the Oklahoma Football Network on. He's the sideline reporter, does the Plank Show Monday through Friday. I'm going to be on his show today at 10:05 on the Plank Show, KREF Radio in Norman, Oak City. And guys, he said, all we wanted for a long time was to play Nebraska at night. And look, I've got kids that are 24 to 35, 4 of them, 2 boys, 2 girls. They love the history of college football. They appreciate it. There are 3 Auburn and 1 Alabama. They're all good. But, Dave, you just nailed it. And, hey, Bo, how about that? I go out there and hunt. We go through Nebraska and South Dakota. You talk about passionate people. Hey, Dave, I'll buy you a sack full of crystals next time I see you, Dave or Bo, if you can tell me where Bob Devaney came from when he took over at Nebraska in 1962 at the football coach, because since he took over, they have failed to not sell out every game since 1962. But what job did he leave at what university to come to Nebraska? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone?
Dave, I know it. Do you want to go first?
I'll make a wild guess. I figured Bo would know it, so I'm going to be wrong, but it's somewhere in like Wyoming or Utah or somewhere out there.
Right.
You're not going to beat Savant, Dave.
No, Dave did a great job.
All right, y'all want them with cheese or without?
No. Weird story, Rob. I was actually on the Wyoming campus last week. We were in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
He's everywhere, vacation. Dave.
No, and had never been to the gym where Kurt Gowdy played in 1943 is still there. It's an old barn-looking, cathedral basketball all purpose, and they have a indoor track, and the cheerleaders were practicing in there. I told my wife, I just want to go in and step on the court where Kurt Gowdy played in 1943 for the NCAA championship.
What a voice, Kurt Gowdy doing. I mean, God. Charlie Jones.
Al D. Rogatis is his broadcast partner back in the early 70s.
Right.
I tell you what I love is, guys, I think about it with Nebraska and Oklahoma. My God, did that impact our childhoods, watching games like that. And, again, we don't fully appreciate some of these rivalries. Florida, Miami, again, you're getting that thing going, but – God almighty, Oklahoma coming in this league, Texas, I think it's going to be so much fun. But I'm with you, Dave. The next 2 schools, is it going to be UNC and UVA? I don't know. Is it going to be Notre Dame? Because the South, The fastest growing Christian denomination in the Southeastern footprint is the Catholic Church. Is it going to be Notre Dame from the top Lake Michigan to Key West and everywhere in between? This is the Southeastern Conference. Or you're going to go Notre Dame in Nebraska. Wow. I mean, how cool, Dave, for Tom Osborne's entire career, he never won fewer than 9 games. Remember, they'd win 70-10, and after the game, Dr. Tom Osborne, Coach, what'd you think about your team's performance today? Well, I was concerned the defense had a lapse there in the fourth quarter. We had 3 of the band members in and a couple of parents, and we gave up that late touchdown, but we'll work on that in practice. Because you scored 70 points. You scored on every single drive. Well, we could have scored more quickly, and we saw some things.
But before Hoover ruled the state of Alabama, it was Jeff Davis out of Montgomery. And we used to call him, as kids, we called him the Jeff Davis Cornhuskers.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, I mean,
the 2 biggest slaughters I ever witnessed.
We interrupt this program to bring you special, but Dave, are you there? Once, Dave, can you with us? Yes.
It might be my internet. I've got the super duper internet thing going, but I'm not sure. Anyway, the 2 biggest slaughters I witnessed were at the hands of Nebraska. One was the 1971 Orange Bowl, Alabama versus Nebraska. Jerry Taggy, Johnny Rogers. Who was their middle guard? Rich Glover. I mean, they just mauled Alabama 31-7, and it wasn't that close. And then the second one was back in 1995. Sadly, the last glory day of Lawrence Phillips, the Fiesta Bowl national championship between Florida and Nebraska. Florida scored first, and then that was it. And then it was another one of those Tom Osborne. We put the band in the middle of the third quarter and kept scoring. But
I remember
that was a 25-year run where Nebraska was just they were just a gauntlet.
Well, I think the 95 Florida-Nebraska game, and I remember I took Nebraska. I said, I'm pulling for Florida. I'm an SEC man. But I said, that line of scrimmage that Nebraska has and their Black Watch defense is going to blow Florida up. It's going to change the way Florida plays football. Jarquez Green out of Fort Valley, Georgia, Peachtree High School, or Peach County High School, was hit on that kickoff and broke like an accordion. I think he broke his femur, but he came back the next year and the next year. What an incredible player. 62-24 they lost. Bo, wouldn't you say, Steve Spurrier, after that game, Florida changed. They would run the ball statistically a lot of games more than they passed the ball, Bo.
Yes, they really did. They and then going all the way to this Bob Stoops coming down there as defense coordinator, they sort of changed philosophy, et cetera. And it's ironically, Nebraska, they co-champion with Michigan in '97, the year that Coach Osborne retired. But things have not been going well for the Huskers. No bowl games the last 7 years, which it was almost unbelievable. Even Vanderbilt's been to a bowl since the Huskers have. So things have gone a little bit crazy. Well, in the Big Ten, it was a good money deal for them, but boy, that is just like Dave spoke a little while ago. Boy, the competition up there has stepped up about 50%.
Well, Dave, let me go back to what you just said. I feel like I'm in a trial. You referenced something, Nebraska in the SEC, okay, because expansion ain't stopping. Look, go back 101 years ago. Our friend David Housel at Auburn chronicled this 3 years ago when it was announced Texas and OU were coming to the league. 1923. Do you know how many members there were in the Southern Conference? 23. Yeah. It went from Virginia to Texas and most everything in between. Dave, I got to ask you about Nebraska. They really loved Texas. They loved how Texas just dominated the Big 12. I mean, would they want to be back in the league with them? But then again, I think they would have a better opportunity to recruit that Southeastern footprint, and they're the 4th winningest program in the history of college football. What's not to like about that?
Their brand power has never gone away, in my opinion, despite 7 years without a bowl. It's a great program waiting to happen. And if they can start recruiting, look to the South to recruit versus to look to the, upper Midwest, they can start getting some speed. And that's, I think, what their program is really lacking right now is speed. And they start getting some speed, and they come into the SEC, and that's incredible. I mean, there was nothing better, as a kid, Thanksgiving weekend, and you're watching the Detroit Lions and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day, and then Friday was Oklahoma, Nebraska.
Yeah,
Keith Jackson, Frank Broyles. I mean, it was just no better than that. And we're live from Owen Field in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And,
Norman, Oklahoma.
That was the game. I mean, with all due respect to the Iron Bowl, I mean, back then it was Oklahoma, Nebraska, and I'd love to see that again.
Yeah, and you can't get better. Keith Jackson and Frank Broyles. I mean, I remember Frank Broyles in an Iron Bowl one time goes, Lionel James is the best halfback I've ever seen in the wishbone, Keith. Watch him on this play. He's the smallest player in the backfield, but he'll lay a wallop on you and knock you to the ground. I talked with Pat Dye yesterday. He absolutely loves the little train from Albany, Georgia, Daugherty High School. 5'7", 172 pounds, all heart, all muscle. Absolutely the best halfback.
Or when Van Tiffin was lining up the field goal in the rain, Keith, I don't think my heart can take it.
Yes.
hey, and I'll tell you another one with Keith Jackson. Bo ran a 69-yarder around left end, 1983 Iron Bowl. I'm at the game, Jefferson County, tornado warnings. Woo! Your attention, a funnel cloud tornado has been spotted in Jefferson County. It is in direct line to be in this area in the next 7 minutes. Game continued to play.
It never stopped.
It was raining so hard you could not see across the field. Number 31 for Auburn, Vic Beasley from Adairsville, Georgia, who had depth perception. Remember Kevin Nealon, Mr. No Depth Perception on Saturday Night Live? He had that problem. They did the surgery. They moved him from a wide receiver to a DB. He made an interception over the middle from Walter Lewis. It was raining so hard you couldn't see. We're on the bus going back to the Sheridan in downtown Birmingham after the game, and this old guy, he had on a satin Marine Corps jacket, said Iwo Jima on there. I knew this guy was tough. And he goes, someone said something about, they said, Grandpa, what did you think about that tornado that coming through there during the game? He goes, well, I've been through a lot in my life. I figured if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. But I watched Auburn beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl. That's pretty damn good. You got to love people like that. But all right, I got another one for you. We had Rick Cleveland, and you all know Rick, legendary sports writer from the Jackson Clarion Ledger, now Mississippi Today. Coolest Friday, Doug and I had him on in Brendan, and he said one of the guys, was it Jim Vinks from the Saints? They were meeting with Archie Manning and Coach Johnny Vaught about the upcoming draft. And we're talking about, maybe he had just signed his contract that Archie was going to get with the Saints. And they threw these numbers out on the table, and he said Coach Vaught just kind of looked at Archie, and he looked at the agent, and he just kind of reared back in his chair, and he said, hell, Archie made more than that at Ole Miss.
Yeah. That's a true story. That's a true story.
But he didn't make as much as his grandson Arch made yesterday.
No. I mean, I tell you, Dave Cody, his older brother Bill, they lived. I know the Mannings lived like on St. Charles Avenue in New Orleans and near Christ Episcopal Church. And you go back. Bill Cody played for the Saints. He played at Auburn. Of course, Archie played at Ole Miss. And everybody that had any interaction with Archie, teammates and whatever, absolutely loves this guy. And I've met him at Touchdown Club, Quarterback Club. Only thing I ever say is, I've got 3 kids, Archie. Man, how do you do it? How do you do it with your kid? He said, just love on them. And they make mistakes, just love on them. Be tough, but just tell them how much you love them every day. And, I mean, the documentary, I'm telling you, there's 3 documentaries. Y'all tell me if I'm insane or not. 3 documentaries I'd love to see written or produced. One is Charlie Pell, The Great Awakening. how he got the Florida program going. Number 2 is all like 38 Bryant assistants. Something about a little about all of them, where they all went. And number 3 is the Skyriders tour. Buddy Martin told a story the other day. He goes, "Hey, 1966, we were like an old DC-6, and we were coming into land at the Auburn airport." And he goes, "It was just a long parking lot." He goes, "That's what I remember." He goes, "And we were coming into land, and we had to pull up at the last minute, and someone said we clipped a tree." And he was talking about some of the riders, were like clutching their pearls, going, "Oh, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now at the hour of our death. Amen." And he goes, "Man, we made it. We circled back around, and we came back in, and we landed." And he goes, "There were drinks spilled, cigarettes everywhere." He goes, "Got out." And they said, "What happened?" They said, "Well, a cow had gotten loose and was on the runway."
Oh my gosh!
I mean, but Buddy, and then Philip Marshall went on the second iteration of the Skywriters tour. But we need those guys. We need those stories, because without those stories, and Bo, you know those guys. Did you ever go on the Skywriters tour?
No, they came through Starkville for 11 years before they started the SEC thing, and most of the stories couldn't be printed. The names are being omitted here, but one time our good friend Mark Womack, who's been I think now 30, worked for the SEC for 40 years, but he had to bail a writer and 2 co-eds from Alabama out of jail. They decided they were going to go skinny dipping in the Holiday Inn pool at 1 a.m. after a few cold beverages. So they got him out in time to make the plane the next day. So that was good. That was good. But just one of many stories from the SEC press tour.
Well, and we need those. The documentaries are cool. They always involve food and drinking and the people, the personalities. Hopefully, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, Vince Farrar, the sports animal in Knoxville, can get in. We had an overnight change a couple of nights ago with, unbeknownst to us, everything changed on Restream, and so we have an all new link and everything like that. So I hope everybody is getting it. So Brendan will bring the guys in, and we're going to have a lot of fun. But what I think is going on. Oh gosh. Okay.
I'm gonna tell a funny story about the Bryant assistants, if I could, since we got a little time here. So my 2 favorite things of the Coach Bryant show that used to air on Sunday afternoons. One was the over/under on how long it would be before the cigarette smoke would start to appear from behind the bowl of Golden Flake potato chips, and then the second would be at the end when they'd be doing the little reel of the assistant coaches. Coach Bryant would always get about 4 or 5 coaches behind, and then he'd only catch up when defensive coordinator Ken Donahue would show up. He'd smiling Ken Donahue, and there'd be smiling Ken Donahue with that scowl on his face. All great stuff. That was just to have YouTube do some Coach Bryant shows from back then. Charlie Thornton, that was just must watch TV.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Use the okay. Okay. Just y'all keep talking, because I'm gonna get these guys on. Sorry about that. Yeah.
And then the other Coach Bryant vignette would be on Sunday shows after they lost, the rare time after they lost. It was always obvious that Coach Bryant had taken a little easy on the bottle the night before, because he was completely sharp. They probably had an early Sunday morning practice and with an early Monday morning practice to follow. He hated to lose that much, but it was always a different show the Sundays after he lost.
Well, Golden Flake, those were the best. I mean, and these coaches shows, some of them were 30 minutes, a few of them were an hour, but the Vols always look better on a Philco. Philco Televisions, proud sponsors of the Tennessee Volunteers. Natural gas. This is John Ward. I mean, we cannot, we cannot put enough value. No, SEC Network did do a great documentary called More Than a Voice. That was fantastic. That was about the great radio announcers in the SEC. They left off some. Paul Eels didn't get enough attention. Great voice of the Arkansas Razorbacks, who sadly died, I believe, in 2006. Stan Torgensen. Stan Torgensen, man, he looked like Meatloaf bald. He was awesome. You know,
that's a frightening visual.
It is.
But he was really good. And then you think about Bob Fulton of the South Carolina Gamecocks for like 40-something years. And then there's Jack Crystal. There's movement on the aisles here in Scottsfield and Starkville, Mississippi. Wrap this one in maroon and white. The sonic drive of the game. Well, the Bulldogs struggled tonight. There's really nothing I can say. So the sonic drive of the game will be my drive from Starkville to my home in Tupelo. Good night, everyone.
John Ward was as good in basketball as he was in football. I mean, he was, football 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give him 6.
Yeah, the land of
basketball king of the Volunteers. Bottom.
Yeah. Okay. The bottom line is that it's just, to me, Joe Dean and the great basketball announcers, a little string music in Lexington, KY, a little Steffarino, Nashville.
Truman Claytor string music on a great pass from Kyle Macy.
Yeah, Barry Goheen drops another one here in Memorial Gymnasium. Oh, my. Joe Dean. I mean, we need announcers like that. Tom Hammond was the straight man. And Joe Dean was just like, remember when Johnny Carson, that one of the greatest ones ever, Johnny Carson has Robin Williams. I'd like to introduce a young comedian I think has a very bright future. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robin Williams. And I mean, he's got the house just in his hand. And he goes, our next guest is the host of an Emmy Award-winning television show, Davis Rules. Let's welcome Mr. Jonathan Winters. And somebody comes out there dressed as a Union artillery officer. Comes out there and, oh my God, those two together, you can't get any better. And
it's a mad world. Was
it is, especially when they changed links. They changed links on us. Yeah, here we go. Man, we got Dudley Dawson. Dudley, my apologies. We had an overnight change in Restream, and I sent you that new link last night. My apologies. Vince Ferrara, currently in the Witness Protection Program. Here he comes. Vince, we'll put one of those voices on there. But welcome aboard. Let me tell y'all both, we had a Restream, changed everything overnight. All the links and everything went haywire. My apologies. I believe, Dudley, I apologize. I thought we sent you the right link.
No problem. I've enjoyed listening to the royalty on here. I have great respect for both these guys. The only thing I'd say is I enjoyed the dating story, but I've got one that always usually tops. My mother once dated Harold Jenkins, who turned out to be Conway Twitty. And every time I get Dudley Dawson, I remember my name could have been Dudley Twitty.
One way.
Oh my God!
I have been totally one-upped.
What would it said? It would have been Mississippi man, Louisiana woman. It would have been Arkansas. Would have been in there somewhere. Hey,
every time Conway Twitty came on the radio, my dad turned it down. Never could understand why, and then later on, my mom told me. So,
listen, you will learn more stuff on this show that you did not know that you need to know than you ever have in your life. Vince Ferrara, the sports animal up in Knoxville, Dave Tompkins, South Carolina, Bo Carter out in the Metroplex, Dallas, Fort Worth, Carrollton. Vince, we're going to play a little tennis real quick, and then I want to get Bo and Dave to comment. But let's get a report on Tennessee first from Vince, and then Dudley, update us on the Hogs, and then we got some questions for y'all, some general questions. And, again, my apologies on the link issue. We'll get it fixed. That's my fault.
Oh, all good. Tennessee is in what they're calling their mock game week preparation, where They're basically doing a lot of things that they will do on game week, only with some additional competition. There are a few spots that are coming to light a little bit more, but still technically up in the air. And you know what's going to happen when the depth chart comes out on Monday for Heupel's press conference, just like around the SEC. It's going to be full of oars, oars all over the place, whether there's true starter there or not. We're going to see a bunch of oars on the roster. It's what coaches always do, because God forbid you name somebody second team and somebody third team, because feelings will be hurt and mamas will get upset. We could never want any of that. That never happens. So, but there's a couple things that stand out about Tennessee in camp. Sort of a continued theme has been a lot of guys banged up and a lot of guys held out. Now, there's only been one significant injury for the season, and that's starting star Jordan Thomas. So they've had two guys compete at that spot, true freshman Boo Carter, an electric player from Chattanooga, and then Christian Harrison, who is the son of Rodney Harrison, the NFL, the Pro Football Hall of Famer. Those two have competed there at that star spot. Both have had good camps. Maybe Harrison has a slight edge. Perhaps both will play against Chattanooga, so that'll play out. Then the other one has been left guard, a position battle. And I think the former Texas Longhorn, Andre Carrick, is probably the leader there. He missed some time early in camp. And then on that offensive line, they haven't really been able to have all five of their guys together yet, because John Campbell's missed some time. They've been careful with him. A lot of guys, whether it's them holding guys back or banged up, it hasn't been, they haven't gotten quite the work that you would think. And look, some injuries around the league are impacting them. I imagine, like Texas losing their top two backs. Tennessee's held Dylan Sampson back because they're not very deep at that position. So that Keenan Peely coming back from his injury last year, they've been limiting him. The second scrimmage, they only did thud. So they didn't even really fully tackle, and you only get a couple of those in camp. So that kind of shows you they're maybe trading out, you getting some physicality work for keeping guys healthy during the season when you need them, especially if you're going to go and play extra games on the back end. So it'll be interesting to see. Josh Heupel says they're healthy. You got their running backs are all back full go, which was a question mark. And we'll see if they can get a little bit of work this week with their starting five. Nico missed the second scrimmage with a stomach bug, but he's good. He's looked awesome in camp. That's the thing, is the guys that have practiced, it's a lot of guys that have looked really good. It's exciting what they can do with the defensive line and the offense with a deeper wide receiving group, and then a quarterback that's going to allow them to do so much more on offense.
Yeah, and it's a great report. Cole Kubelik really talked about the depth on the defensive line for Tennessee is an issue, a positive.
Right. It's as good outside of Georgia. It's as good as there is in the league, and probably top five in the country. They'll go 12 to 14 deep in guys that they trust to play, and a number of them are 5 stars just trying to work their way up the ladder. That's how deep they are, and that includes, of course, James Pierce Jr. ESPN named the #1 overall player in all of college football.
Yeah,
I don't know when the last time you could say that about a Tennessee Volunteer, and he'll be a top 5, top 10 pick. It's exciting from that standpoint for Tennessee fans that they can point to a star on both sides of the football with their team.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not. You talked about James Pierce a few weeks ago, the edge rusher.
Yeah, he's dynamic. First step. He has a terrific inside move. Obviously, the speed to get around the edge. He has great bend. That's maybe the thing that the NFL scouts love the most about him, is how he can bend on those big tackles and get under and through them. And then when he gets to the quarterback, he knows how to get them to the ground. Not everybody can achieve that. Some guys can get to the QB, but then can't tackle him. He's really good at getting those guys to the ground.
Yeah, Dudley. Let's talk.
Tennessee has a reciprocal schedule to Florida, in that they got to travel to play NC State, they got to travel to play Oklahoma, they got to travel to play Arkansas. They got a bunch of games in Knoxville.
Yeah, I think the schedule is spread out. I don't think there's a gauntlet in there really. Like some teams have, 3 really, really difficult weeks in a row. With the 2 open weeks, there isn't as much of that in the league this year. Only a couple of teams have 6 or 7 weeks in a row of games. But I think it's spread out. You start with Oklahoma, which is very different than when they typically open with the Florida Gators, as you guys know. And then, you have Alabama and Georgia. So it's kind of top heavy. And then you have other teams that on their schedule that don't have big projections for 2024. Tennessee's going to be favored in 9, or at least right now, as you said, they would be favored in 9 of those 9 of those 12 games. So yeah, there'll be a slight favorite, a slight underdog against Oklahoma, and obviously, I think Alabama and Georgia, they'll be slight dogs. Well, definitely Alabama slight, Georgia maybe more. But Tennessee, there's a lot of games that they should win. So 9-3, 10-2 is kind of that range for them. But the schedule is not the most challenging in the league. There's some tough teams there. NC State, you can't overlook them either. But they'll be favorite, and I know fans, they're not even considering that game. But you know how that goes. If it's not a major team, they feel like you're going to win that game automatically, and Tennessee fans are pretty confident about that game, even if that's not the reality.
Well, Dudley, jump in here right now. We were last night.
We had the debut. We had the debut of the Bobby Petrino comedy show here last night. Something I never thought I'd see. He was asked about the kickers. Was he feeling good about the fact that Matthew Shipley had a real good field goal kicking camp? And he said, "I don't watch the kickers. Don't want to see the kickers. Don't want to be around the kickers." Apparently, they missed 10 field goals at Texas A&M last year out of 36, and many of them really cost them games or put them in bad situations. And so he said, "I'm not going to look at field goal kickers." He said, "Let me tell you this: when we get close, we're going to try to score a touchdown. We're not going to depend on the kicker." And he was, it was just kind of interesting. I loved it, but it's so different than him 13 years ago when we got 7 minutes at a press conference. There was no laughter. He's such a different dude right now. And I bring all that up because if Arkansas is going to have a good season, it's going to have to do with them being good offensively. He feels good about what they've got. I'm anxious to see, them go out there a week from Thursday night when they take on UAPB. As I've said on this show many times, the narrative of their season will be set the second week when they go to Oklahoma State and play at 11 a.m.
Well, and Dudley, Arkansas, again, new quarterback coming in. Bobby, of all the schools in the SEC, Arkansas is the one where a coordinator is considered to be the star. But Bobby Petrino, like Cole Keeberlick said last night, he goes, he's not a pleasant person to be around. He's not real pleasant to talk to. He said, but he gets results. He said, and I don't know Bobby Petrino. You are boots on the ground. You're around him. So I got a lot more respect for what you say about him than myself because I don't know him. I watch him from afar. But damn it, the best people I've ever had, tutors, coaches, parents, friends, are the people that are the toughest on me. I would think Bobby Petrino is a godsend to Arkansas football in that respect. Agree or disagree, or do I need to have a
and I'm not even going to try to act like we're besties. We've had our differences over the years, and I've certainly been critical when I think I needed to be critical and praised him when I think he needed to be praised. I've never had any problems with him as, an offensive mind, and that's what they needed. This was a Hail Mary for Coach Pittman and Hunter Yurchek, the AD. It could work out great. As I said, number one, I think it's going to work out spectacularly, or it's not going to work out at all.
Yeah.
And we'll have a whole new narratives right here next year. But, you can see the different offensive philosophy over there. You can see wide receivers running so many patterns. And, again, I have to point out that, I have no ill will toward Dan Enos. But, man, that was a cluster last year. Quarterback was mad. The offensive line was mad. Everybody was mad at the offensive coordinator. And, I mean, you have to go away to get fired during midseason. And, that's exactly what happened. They seem to have better chemistry around here. If they weren't playing in the SEC, I think they'd had opportunity to have a great year, but they are And now there's so many more teams in there. They're so good that it's going to be interesting. I'm ready to get it go. I hate August. I absolutely hate August. It's just practice. I'm about games. I'm like Allen Iverson. I don't want to talk about practice. I want to talk about games.
Yeah. Bo Carter, I have a lot of respect for what Dudley just said. And before I get your thoughts on that, I want to let Vince. We'll work through these technical issues, guys. It's on my watch. It's my I'll get it fixed. Vince, your closing comments before you got to get going, and then we're going to come back for a good bit with Dudley and Bo.
Yeah,
but Vince,
and we'll definitely be in touch with Dudley later this year because Tennessee is making that trip to Fayetteville. Looking forward to that. Sam Pittman, of course, he's been great to our station and our show. He, of course, was on the Tennessee staff, and Jimmy Himes would get him in any venue, get him for a one-on-one interview. So I think there's a chance maybe we'll talk to him on game week leading up to that game. So it'll be fun to go back and forth with Dudley leading up to that game later in the year. I just like the fact there's some different teams on the schedule for the Vols this year, like an Arkansas, like a Mississippi State. Just freshens things up. Obviously, Oklahoma is another one too. So it's a different look to the schedule, but can't wait to get it started. Our practice viewing is over. We did get like 3 periods a day for the first couple of weeks. It is Operation Shutdown now. Now we still get a ton of interviews, but our viewing period is over. But I enjoy that kind of stuff. I think you can separate from other people when you're watching some practices. But that's over now. So it's like Dudley said, it's all about the games now moving forward.
All right, Vince, we'll do it again next week. We'll get all the links in advance to you.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate you guys. Always enjoy being on with each of you.
Good to see you.
Hey, sports animal, Vince Ferrara up in Knoxville. And Bo, before I go back to you, I'll say, Dudley, I'll be up in Fayetteville as a guest of Jim McClellan and Michael Miller and a bunch of hogs up there for the Tennessee game October 5th. Really, I'm fired up about going up there. I got a lot of Razorback friends. I like Scott Paulo and Tommy Christenberry, Michael Sagg, Jim Cherry, Robert Hill. Long list. By the way, Bo, here's another documentary. I'll tell you a cool one that would be written is Hog Fest. During the harvest, all my buddies, Donnie Raines, Robert Hill and Woodson Hill, Hill Farms and Mr. Brenner's people, they're out there in those combines, Dudley. They got the TVs on. If they love the hogs, but they're working about 18 hours a day, harvesting corn, rice, beans. And I mean, there's a whole culture that follows the hogs in the combines. That would be a cool story. If you want to come down here and ride with these guys, Dudley, you'd be a great one because you grew up in, by the way, Bo Carter, Balch, Arkansas, a suburb of Newport, Arkansas, and over in Grubbs, where they have Blue Jays, the peanut butter pie that's that thick with 2 inches of whipped cream on top of it. It weighs 11 pounds per pie. But anyway.
Hey, I was on a tractor when I was 12 and in a combine when I was 14. I know all about this.
You know that because
hard work was never a problem here.
Yeah. I think you would be awesome to write that story. Bo, how about if you're the SID at Arkansas and you got Sam Pittman? He's a writer's dream, a media's dream. Then you got Bobby Petrino. He's a little more stern, but I respect the hell out of what Dudley just said. I write favorable when it's favorable, and when it's not, I write the truth. Isn't that the duty of a free press, to always tell the truth?
Yes, it's good to see Dudley again. Dudley and I go back to the old Southwest Conference days in the 80s. So it's Dudley, great to be with you, man. And Coach Pittman reminds me a lot of Dudley will agree with it. Spike Dykes, the late great coach at Texas Tech or whatever, always has a quip or two. Just hope and pray that he succeeds. Just a really, really nice gentleman or whatever. And I totally agree with Dudley. I think Petrino is going to be a difference. They were no more 7-3 slugfest with Mississippi State. That might have been one of the worst games.
I think the worst game I ever covered.
I was just going to say, I watched on TV, and my wife's Mississippi State grad, but we were saying, have you ever seen a game worse than that? I said, yeah, the 0-0 Vanderbilt, Kentucky homecoming tie in 1964.
That was a pillow fight.
It's set football back about 30 years, unfortunately.
I'll tell you the one that set football back 50 years. 2008, Auburn at Mississippi State, 3-2. That was so bad. They put a viewer discretion advised PG-17 on that one. I mean, that was.
Yeah, but it was only because Mississippi State left a lot of people on base.
That's right. They hit a homer in the bottom of the
11 innings. That was a tough one. Dudley, see, this is what is so cool. And I appreciate what Bo just said. He goes, I hope and pray Sam Pittman does well. We don't drink Kool-Aid on this show. I mean, these are real people that you're dealing with. And again, we got lucky finding Dudley because, you were working at a paper in Northwest Arkansas. My wife saw it on Facebook. Franz Beard, our great friend of the show, GatorBaitMedia.com, said, you need to get that guy on your show. And I don't check some of that stuff as much as I should. And you would fire it away right away. Love having this family that we have on here. And it's also cool how y'all know each other, the writers, the SIDs. And Dudley, if you heard us talking about Coach Bryant when he closed that scrimmage that time, and the writers, Kirk, they're our friends. Do you, when you're at Arkansas, is it Kyle Parkinson is the SID there now? What's your relationship with him? Is he easy to work? I know he came from Vanderbilt about 6 years ago.
Good dude. Don't have any problems.
Good.
Everything's going well. As previous guest was saying, the practice is closed now. We had the opportunity to see a lot of it, but now it's shut down, and so you will go on what the coaches say from here on out. But this, as Bo knows, when you have programs that have boosters that are in the practices, the closed practices, if you've been around long enough, you can talk to them and get a handle on what's going on as well, what's true, what's not. So, we'll be okay there. But again, as I said, I appreciated the fact that practice was open. You can come see that. There are a lot of schools now that won't even, let you see anything.
Yeah.
Arkansas used to let you see everything. That's a little too much because you were going sitting, at 3 or 4 hours of practice, all the time. But now I think there's a happy medium here in Arkansas. And I don't think there's anybody that has any ill will toward Coach Pittman. They want him to do well. He's a good dude. The dude you'd sit down and have a beer with if you did that. That was journalistically ethical. But
yeah.
I do say that, we all know the story. We all know the deal. Yeah. The buyout goes down. You can't have another bad season or there'll be a new staff around here. And it's just the way things is. Not something I take great pride in saying or anything. Yeah. And I'm sure his family and the ones around him would like for us to shut up, but that's just the truth. And you gotta tell the truth.
Well, Bo, last night at the Memphis Touchdown Club meeting with Cole Kubelik, one thing for sure, God, the interest in college football, we can't get enough of this stuff. As we close out here in the last few minutes on this show, and let me say to everybody watching, thank you so much for watching. Support our sponsors. They're all on our website, sidelines.live. I was out at Hewlett and Dunn yesterday, saw Charles Hall, the owner, and his wife, Laura, and their kids, and JM and Raven. Got new stuff coming in every day. I'm wearing one of these new hoodies from Marshwear. Man, they've got so much cool stuff out there. Filson, 7,000 pairs of boots. They got cowboy boots made out of everything. Ostrich, anaconda, python, greater kudu, anything that you can think of, alligator, snapping turtle. They got over 7,000 pairs, and they got great-looking women's stuff. Audrey got a couple of more pairs of boots. She's got the largest collection of boots this side of the late Imelda Marcos in the Philippines. 3,000 pairs of shoes. But anyway, Hewlett and Dunn, I am so proud to have them as a sponsor. You cannot get better people than that. I took them some crumble cookies out there yesterday, about 3:30 or 4, and they gobbled them up. But those are those Anderson Bean boots they've got out there. Just great people to work with, and support all of our sponsors. We're just so blessed to have them. And like I always say, we most often see the face of Christ in the least among us. We have great viewers, great supporters of this show, and we have the best guests and the best producer. I'm optimistic. I'm positive, but I always hear from my wife, junk in, junk out, positive in, positive out. Bo, last thing for you, and then I'll go to Dudley. what's a story that we're not hearing about in the SEC or college football that we're going to be hearing about soon, in your opinion?
Well, coming up this week, actually, you got Georgia Tech and Florida State. A lot of hype for it, but it's amazing they're playing a conference game in Ireland to start the season. The previous ones have been Navy, Notre Dame, et cetera. And so you got to admire both schools for sticking on the line. In fact, they had to, we talked about that. They had to ship Florida State's equipment over on a cargo ship because it was too expensive to charter another plane just for the pads and other equipment. So
wow.
It's going to be an interesting day, and I'm really looking forward to the Irish fans get into it quite a bit. So it's going to be a wonderful time for college football overseas.
Well, I thought about that. Normally an 18-wheeler, Dudley and Bo, will ship the equipment out across the country, and the state troopers. I wonder if the state troopers are going to be over there in Ireland. That ought to be quite I've been to Dublin on a Sunday afternoon. You know why the whiskey's so damn good in Ireland? Because the food sucks. Boiled potatoes and cabbage. Yeah. I mean, you get that in prison, don't you? 3 hots in a cot. Okay.
Peas and carrot every day. Peas and carrots every meal.
That's right. And there's an old saying: if you lead a good life, when you go to heaven, the English will be in charge of the administration, the French in charge of the arts, the Germans in charge of the police, and the Italians in charge of the arts. I'm sorry. Yeah. But if you go down below, the English will be in charge of the cooking, the French in charge of the administration, the Germans in charge of the arts, and the Italians in charge of the police. Ha, ha, ha. But Dudley, what's the story that we're not talking about right now? That, whether it's Fayetteville or whatever.
Yeah, well, we've talked about a lot, but I can tell you this. I know that this Friday and Saturday I'm off. And I'm getting revved up for the season. Saturday, I will be in my theater room early on. Will not come out of there for the rest of the day. There are 4 football games. One of them is really good. 3 of them may not be. The last one starts at 11:59. Our time. I'm just going to be there all day. I mean, that's the story I'm looking forward to. Is that I'm going to watch college football. It counts. And I don't care what level the games are. I'm just excited to watch it and get here because I'm done talking about practice.
Talking season, as Coach Spurrier says, is about over. I'll be up on the Spring River in Hardy, Arkansas, trout fishing, drinking cold road sodas, including that one behind me, Ham's Beer, the beer you've been looking for since 1865, born in the land of sky blue waters. Hey, guys, I think you're right, Dudley and Bo. It doesn't matter who's playing. It's college football. It's kind of like my dad. What's for dinner tonight? My dad always said, whatever your mother's cooking, and you'll like it. I mean, that's right. So, I don't care who's playing. But anyway, great guest, Vince Farrar, the sports animal in Knoxville, Dave Tompkins, the Low Country in South Carolina. Lot going on right now. Pay attention. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Go out and help other people. We're all blessed. Go bless others. See you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central on the show.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.